I'm just going to pick up on that.
Go.
It's a good segue because there's another. I'm going to go on a bit of a limb here, but I've got a bit of a theory. This is dangerous. And then I reckon because of the prominence of football, AFL football, and elite sport generally these days, and the role model issue. And I think because lifestyles are changing, I think people are working harder, they're working longer, they're seeing their kids less. Some of the institutions that used to rely on to set standards and a moral, the family is not what we once knew. Organised religion isn't what we once knew. Politicians, aren't perhaps what they once were. I don't know. But because of that, I think people look to elite sport and the AFL. And so when players or leaders fall short of... So when players fall short of these deemed standards, they whack them. People feel cheated. They feel let down. They get on tour back and say, "Oh, my little boy," and this and that. So I reckon there's a lot of there's a bit of communal type guilt happening there as well. And that's just a theory. I don't know whether it's...
Does anyone agree
whether
with,
it's valid?
With Benny?
A lot of pressures on elite sports people, and there's other things that occur when you enter the elite sports world that don't occur when you're in general public like the rest of us. You may be, this is a bit stereotypical, but you may be picked up out of school and put into club atmosphere. We all know that our social norms often come at this age group from going to work, and if you're going to work within just a male culture, then you're exposed to a different set of social norms. What I wanted to disagree with, I think, is the theme that's coming across to me about it's just the one guy and therefore it's not all of us. And whilst I agree with that, there's still an underlying acceptance somewhere that behaviour is okay, or some enabler to continuing that behaviour. And I just want you to think about the media and the last stories that you've read, especially in my field regarding physical and sexual assault of women and men and young children. It's the victims that are getting the troublesome media. It's those people who are getting called liars, that they're out just to cause difficulty for AFL players, that everything that they've said is for some secondary gain. And I think what we're not paying attention to is the person that's doing the wrong is not just the poor guy, boys will be boys. We need to be doing something about it, and we need to ensure that it's not within our culture. And you could argue that it's historically within our culture, and therefore we all have to keep working at it, that we don't create those enablers. And the simple enabler for me, and that's what the players told me many years ago, is when you're in the showers and you have a joke about something, a derogatory joke about something, it's no longer about race and it's no longer about religion, it's more about women.
These days? That surprises me.
A little while ago,
okay.
But yeah.
Alastair, you talked about the bubble, if you like, that the AFL players, so you come out, you get drafted, you're 18, 19, let's say you've got a 10-year career, you get spat out the other end. Is there a concern within the clubs, within the AFL, that bubble actually isn't setting them up for being 30, no longer an AFL player and out there?
Well, I think the difficulty is that our game has only become truly professional probably in the last decade. And so we're still evolving as a group of clubs that are trying to manage this full-time professionalism of AFL players and then their possible transition into mainstream work post their AFL careers. Now, in some cases that can be as short as 12 months or 2 years, and in other cases it can be as long as 12 to 15 years in the game. It's enormously difficult to have these guys who, in a lot of cases, haven't got the time to develop the skills that they need for mainstream work. But once they finish their football careers, but my experience, and certainly from the Hawthorn Footy Club, and indeed I think it's spread right across a lot of the clubs in the AFL now, is that clubs are working very, very well with their players in conjunction with both the AFL and the Players Association in trying to provide opportunities for these players so they can develop some skills. That's why through the collective bargaining agreement that's just been signed off between the Players Association and the AFL, that there's a mandatory compulsory day off and that there's another half day during the week that the players are also requested, so that it gives them now 1.5 days where they can be away from the club to develop some of these skills. And I'm sure if that becomes part of mainstream right across the competition, that our players will be much better prepared post their AFL careers.
So Benny, when I observe the Melbourne Footy Club, which is the one I know best, I do sometimes say to myself, Jesus, how do they fill in a full day, these footballers? I mean, are you filling in the day for them? Is it 9 to 5, apart from the 1.5 days you got off? Or really is it, are we pretending to give them 9 to 5 and reality is they're not doing that?
Well, I'm sure Al could answer that, but much better than me. But they're there from, it's basically a full-time job. They're there from 7, 8, 3 or 4. They're not always out in the track training. They're doing a sort of quite a varied program, but they're there and there's meetings and there's, medical type obligations. There's obligations to sponsors and corporates. There's, developing the game, commute, a whole range. So it's very much a full-time job. And on top of that, they get their half or day off to go and undertake some study or traineeship. So, one of the things that amuses me is this sort of PlayStation myth that the boys sort of come and I think there's a view that they still train 2 or 3 nights a week at 4 p.m. or something, but I don't see too many PlayStations.
No.
It wouldn't be too much time, I would have thought.
And tell me, outdated PlayStations. I think, aren't we onto Wii's or iPhones?
Tell me about though, but tell me at Richmond and Hawthorn, but about just the broader education. So being derogatory to women in the shower is what's been suggested. But is there programs around respect? There's respect for women programs. Well,
there are, and that sounds that often. I don't necessarily like that term. It sounds a bit patronising, but it's about cultural change, and it's about we've got policy relating to gambling and responsible consumption of alcohol and respect and responsibility for women, their role in the workplace, and because they're in very male environments, football clubs changed a lot in the last 10 years. So there's the formal education which the coaches and clubs encourage them to get out and get involved in, but there's I was lucky enough to I've got a decent education, but I can guarantee you I learnt more in football clubs about life and human nature and
more than at Monash University.
Well, not quite, nearly. But I call it the University of Footy, and I think we often don't value the learnings and the experiences and the life skills. It's such a intense environment, and they're very rich environments.
Can I talk?